speaking of people who continue to play the victim even though they're not, here is today's daily dose of Michelle Obama, who has been out there trying to promote her terrible podcast that has absolutely no fan following. And she decided everything she says and does is a complaint. Everything. And so she winds up talking to Tina Knowles, also better known as Beyonce's mother, about marriage and divorce, which is Michelle's favorite topic, one of them at least. Number one is how much she hates her time as first lady. She hated it. And number two, I mean, you could go either way, how racist the country is and how much she can't stand it. And then we're coming in, at least in the top three, is her negative comments about her husband and her marriage. Here she is talking with Tina Knowles about number three, sort of.
I love the way you talk about the need to get your independence, because your marriage wasn't always what it should have been.
Right.
Okay, so she's going right in, like, independence is what it's about. Of course, you know, you had a shitty marriage. I can totally relate. And then can I just show you one more? Look at SOT 23. No. I'm sorry. It's the VO6, where the two of them get up and they start dancing. And this is part of the Michelle Obama attempted reinvention. I'm sorry, but I'm not impressed. To make herself into something cool. Here she is again. Make herself into something cool, Walter, that like we can relate to. She's a cool girl because she was first lady, and yet she can get up there and dance with Beyonce's mom. I'm sorry, but all I can think is you hate the country. You hate your husband, and a couple of lame steps to the left, steps to the right ain't going to cure it.
The whole dancing thing, of course, crested during COVID with all those propaganda nurse orchestrated dances that were meant.
And teachers.
And teachers and so on. We really have gotten the human body into American politics in the way the rest of the world must be just looking at. I mean, is there any other country in the world where they do this much dancing? The reason they do all this dancing is because they don't have any arguments. They can't speak. They can't converse. They can't argue. So the person are we going to have a dance off for the U.S. president next time? I mean, it looks like it might come at least in the next 20 years.
I don't think she's going to win. I think Trump will win that one too.
But okay, so the other night I was on the Greg Gutfeld show, and we were doing a bit about how the press is complaining that Melania isn't spending enough time in the White House. She's only been there for 14 days during this whole term so far. But what happens with every first lady after they get out of there is they tell you how much they hated living in the White House, what a trap it is, what a prison it is, how absolutely suffocating the role of first lady is. You know, here's Melania just saying, I got other things to do and other houses to live in, and they're criticizing her. But, you know, on the other hand, we have Michelle telling us about this long incarceration and her marriage and her role and her White House and so on, while she dances finally free of the dude, of the house, of the place. And no wonder she has no audience, because nobody likes to tune into a podcast to hear somebody's sad stories about themselves.
Yes, all her whining. Here she is again. This woman, Tina Knowles. Okay, I don't know what she's done in her own right. I'm sure she's accomplished some things, but being Beyonce's mother is interesting. So, of course, a good interviewer would make it all about that, frankly. But Michelle, typical, makes it all about one other thing. Michelle, here is an example.
How does it feel to share your story with the world? Because let me tell you, when I wrote Becoming, I shared this. No, it's not about me, but what I'm saying is that, you know, I was all confident writing the book.
Yeah.
And then the day it was coming out, I could not sleep because I thought, oh my God, I told everybody everything.
Everything.
Okay. And by the way, like she dials up her like accent, you know, her street accent. I told everybody everything. She doesn't talk like that.
She didn't used to talk like that. And they call it code switching. And they've given it, you know, this big rationale that you have to when you're a member of a certain community, be able to talk to the street and be able to talk to the, ambassador and go back and forth. All of that tells me you have no self. What we used to call that was chameleonism. And it meant that you are completely driven by impressing whoever you're trying to sell something to, such that you'll completely change your personality. The idea that she is, and AOC does this, and a lot of politicians do this. Oddly, Trump doesn't. Trump always talks like Donald Trump, no matter how inappropriate it is. Trump could be out in the woods talking to loggers, and he's still Donald Trump. And frankly, I think that's one of his great advantages in this era of code switching and chameleonism and targeted personalities. The problem with Michelle Obama is that she has no natural constituency. Where's Barack? He made her famous, and now she's turning on him. She's obviously on some really long runway to divorce or a breakup. Maybe their fortune is such that they can't get divorced in the way you and I can by just walking out the door and saying, "Hey, buddy." But they don't, she doesn't have to soften us up forever. If she wants to go spread her wings, just do it,
Well, every comment, I mean, truly, this audience knows because we've been watching them, about marriage, about Barack, about relationships comes from a dark place. You can tell this woman has got a lot of issues. She's bitter about being his wife, about the career, I guess, she never had. By the way, she was only first lady for 8 years. You can go have a legal career. I could resume my legal practice tomorrow. I'd have to back up my bar licenses. I'd be fine. You'd have to take some continuing legal education to get there. You can do it. Stop bitching and moaning about it. Fucking do it. Stop. Instead, she wants to be loved in the podcast lane. She's failing, and she's getting progressively more bitter. Here she is, listen here, talking about, now it's everyone's problem. It's not just her problem in her relationship. It's what we do to girls. You see, we're sending the wrong messages to girls. Watch, 23.
I'm trying my best because I know that when it comes to raising daughters and women, we're socialized to think that we aren't good enough. We're socialized to think that we need somebody else to make us whole. And that starts so young. It starts with Barbie dolls and Ken and the wedding dress and the questions that we ask our daughters. Trying to figure out how to not program that in my girls and the girls in my life. Because, if you ask somebody, are you dating somebody? They might be happy, but then you're asking them, well, you're happy, but are you dating somebody? Right. And then they're dating somebody, and then it's like, oh, you're dating somebody when you get married.
Right.
And then it's on
when you're gonna have
and
a baby.
And on.
When
so
you're
when you're going to have a baby.
And that's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone.
It's definitely not for Michelle Obama. It's basically an F the patriarchy segment saying because there's a Ken doll, we're socializing little girls to think they're not whole without a man, which is insane. And by the way, most of us think prizing the institution of marriage and finding a life partner is something that's a laudable goal that actually will make your life happier, Michelle. And it doesn't have to come at the expense of a woman's independence. Only you think that.
Misery loves company, Megyn. And if you've ever been in a small town when somebody gets divorced, if a woman initiates a divorce, she wants all her friends to get divorced too, Yes. And then the minute she's telling everybody how great it is and what a good time it is, and now she's got all this time on her hands. Listen, Michelle, if you don't believe in women attaching themselves to powerful men, then why did you attach yourself to one of the most ambitious Chicago politicians with national ambitions ever? I mean, we would not know your name, I'm sorry, if it were not for the fact that you married Barack. And now you want to become the spokesmodel for doing it your own way without a man?
This July, there's a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, or so they hope to be, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling it the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, some worry global demand for U.S. dollars could decrease, bringing down the value of those dollars that are in your savings. While this transition, if it happens, will not happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to 989898. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands, tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.